Welcome to the Mojo for Musicians podcast from Manny Cabo Media, where we dig deep into today's top strategies to help you take your music career to the next level with real, raw, and uplifting conversations with industry professionals that are making moves, making a difference, and making the best versions of themselves to inspire you to do the same. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Manny Cabo, and welcome to another episode of Mojo for Musicians. All right, welcome back, Mojo Maniacs, to episode 31. And man, it sounds even crazy to me till this day to say that we're on season 3 already, because it hasn't even been a year, but I have all of you out there to thank for that. So seriously, guys, thank you for continuously listening and, more importantly, reviewing and rating the podcast. Because essentially, I created this all for you out there, to guide you, educate you, but most of all, to keep inspiring you to keep pursuing your dreams and passions as an artist with some solid value through my own experiences. Because, I'm in the trenches with you folks as well, so I get your frustrations, your concerns, and that alone has been the impetus for me wanting to share my successes and how I got through those difficult moments. And this particular episode today certainly hits home for me as a vocalist because it has to do with finding your voice. Now, here's the crazy thing, and I hear this all the time. I don't have a voice, Manny. I need to find my voice, Manny. Well, I'm here to tell you today, all of you, that no, you don't. You already have your voice. What you need to do is cultivate it, strengthen it, educate it, because it's just like bodybuilders strengthening their muscles. The hard part isn't actually finding your voice. That's actually the easy part. Now, the arduous task, if you even want to call it that, is finding something that you feel strongly about when it comes to singing or performing or even speaking. And you'll soon see it's just a direct extension of you, the artist. Go figure, right? Now, since this is a music-oriented podcast, I want to limit it to the singing voice. But you'll soon find out that they're all relative. And the principal reason as to why I chose today's guest to be the face of this particular episode is because she wasn't afraid to truly do something different, off the cuff and out of left field with her voice. But we'll get into that a little bit later. For now, let's get you all in gear to finding your voice and your particular style. So what I like to do is, instead of saying find your voice, what I like you to do is try to describe your musical style in a manner that captivates anyone listening to you, right? You want to create that curiosity, or as we say, buzz around your voice. Because the reality is, when people are talking about you, I don't care if it's good and bad, then you're doing something right. Because there's no such thing as bad publicity. I learned that a long time ago. And it's not something that society can decide for you. It's an internal thing, and it's comprised of multiple layers, like your performance, as I said before, the way you present yourself, and of course, the sound and clarity of your voice that essentially make up your artistry, as in my previous episode of branding. Both these topics actually go hand in hand, because as I alluded to on episode 30, and incidentally, one of the reasons why I wanted to juxtapose both these episodes is because your voice is also your brand. Your vocal style is your brand. The way you present your material with your voice is your brand. You get the point. And some artists go in as far as to hire outside sources to help develop their voices, through vocal coaches, public relations, managers, even publicists, to name a few. Now, here's one big caveat, and I want to stress this because I don't care if you're starting your career or you're a seasoned performer. You will never gain full control of people's thoughts and criticisms about you as an artist. And guess what? That's completely fine. Yes, it's okay. And if you truly care about other people's opinions, then you're really not going to last too long in this industry, because your own ego will destroy you, limit you, and gobble you up and spit you out. Remember, your only job as an artist is to be 100% honest with yourself and truthful with your music, and make it as simple as possible to understand from the audience point of view, especially in today's attention span. And one of the best ways that has helped me become a successful artist is best represented by one of my vocal idols in his song, "Heard It Through the Grapevine." What I mean is, having tons of cheerleaders talk about you, as I've said on multiple occasions, because there's no better marketing power
or tool than word of mouth. And if this is happening, then people are certainly intrigued by you. For example, like with me, usually people say, not only does Manny look like Daughtry, he's got like a Daughtry kind of vibe, but with his own spin to it. So at least now they have a reference point. You get what I'm saying? I'm not copying his style by no stretch. I just happen to fall into a category or genre that is highly received and that appeals to that style of people that appreciate that music, right? Makes perfect sense, which I happen to love as well. And it also means that you're either developing your style or you're really honed in on something that people are digging. But here's the caveat. You really have to be honest with yourself, guys, because when you find that inner voice, that's the style you're truly comfortable with. That's the style that will define you. And that's when you become fearless and confident in executing that style. One thing I will always, and I mean always, advise all of you on is this. I don't care how talented you are, because in all honesty, there are tons of amazing, talented artists that are miserable doing what they're doing. And I know a lot of them on a personal level, because they're either forced to do something due to, contractual agreements, or because influencers tell them to do this, or the marketing entities that be and represent them tell them this is the way they have to do this. And this could only happen if you decide to base your career around the influence of others. I hope that makes sense to you. Or you just did it for the money and not because it's who you are. Now think about that for a second, because being fake will always bite you in the ass, and you never, ever want your integrity questioned. Consistency is key. And it's okay if you reinvent yourself, but you need to establish yourself first. I've always appreciated the artists that were never afraid to be unique. And who cares if they call it controversial? In most cases, those that are calling it controversial are the ones that are living vicariously through that media attention, through your bravery. Or maybe it doesn't fall under the quote unquote status quo, right? Which is all the nonsense that I hear all the time. And always remember, it's the crazies that have changed the world. And working for Apple for so many years, Steve Jobs said it the best. Think different. All right? Remember those huge campaigns that used to be out in the late 80s? Makes perfect sense. We are the voice of the people that really want to make a difference. So be that voice. And even if it makes people scratch their heads, because guess what? They will remember you, and they're thinking about you, and they're talking about you, or vice versa. And that's what builds the buzz around you. And that's it, guys. That's essentially how I developed my style. I gathered all of my inspirations and sources and preferences in music and really listened. Closely paid attention to those elements that really struck a chord in me. I asked myself, why the hell do I love this song so much, or this riff, or this lyric as much as I do? Because when you start answering those questions, then you start building the foundation and basis of your own creative style and preferences. Make sense? And I've always believed that action breeds inspiration and creativity, and not the other way around. Let me repeat that. Action always breeds inspiration and creativity, and not the other way around. As with anything else, you got to put in the work, guys, and the hours, and understanding who you are as an artist. That's the key in becoming a successful one as well. Because in all honesty, it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all industry. And be glad for that, because it allows you the freedom and the opportunity to be yourself. But remember, you'll notice I keep repeating this over and over in multiple episodes, because it is imperative that you understand and love yourself first to be bold enough to walk through that valley of red tape in this crazy entertainment industry. Trust me on that, guys. Every one of my vocal teachers have always uttered one consistent line throughout, and that is, you're the only one that could sound like you. And I'm not talking about impersonators. I'm talking about the uniqueness in the construction of your anatomical voice, That's why it drives me nuts when I hear or see other singers trying to sound like someone else, because each and every one of you out there have the potential to be great, guys, the potential to be great at being you. Me, personally, I think it's completely fascinating how every voice is truly unique when you really take the time out to listen. There's so many raspy voices, clean voices. It's a genetic composition because everyone's vocal folds are totally different from one another, causing our custom, what we call in the industry, phonation, as they say. And of course, how our voices resonate as well. And I also want to point out in finding your particular voice is that you have to have a keen sense of that self-awareness that I've been talking about throughout this entire segment with respect to knowing what your voice can handle or not. And what I speak of is your vocal range. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, so I deeply know and understand what my voice can and cannot do. And I know what my limitations are. And forcing your voice to do something that it's not equipped to do is reckless and completely damaging. Now, that's not to say you can't adjust to a particular style. Like, for example, I may not be able to hit that full open chest voice of, say, a tenor, but I can hit that same note with my falsetto voice. So there are exceptions to the rule, which also requires strength building through rudiments, which takes time in developing. What I'm talking about is completely overexerting your voice and damaging it. So again, don't let your ego get in the way if you have a limitation. Admit you have one and do your best to either leverage your highest note or build those muscles and strengthen your voice to build a range and maximize that. My final thoughts on all this is that I can't stress enough how important it is to listen to multiple genres of music and to listen to various styles, to help you diversify and expand your vocal capacity. I truly and honestly believe that from playing around with operatic vocal styles, kidding around like going, that stuff, and playing with grungy vocal styles has helped me significantly in increasing the power and flexibility in my voice. And playing with incredible vocal styles of, say, Marvin Gaye and Sam Smith to build that falsetto, that sounds so smooth. And all those capabilities, had I not done that, I wouldn't be able to hit the notes that I do in my original pieces of music. So definitely, once again, play around with as many styles as you can. You know what they say, don't knock it until you try it. And you never know what vocal style will stick out and that you become truly passionate about. And that's when you'll soon realize that perhaps you like a more raspy vibe or a voice that is naturally clean, or you love living in those baritone areas of your voice, right? But more importantly, you'll understand the advantages that you have over others and how to maximize and capitalize that power and flexibility of your unique voice. And that's where the confidence comes in, as I alluded to before. It's always going to be a recipe for success. Again, you got to put in the work, guys. You got to put in the hours. There's no way around that. And with that being said, it's a perfect segue into today's guest that I'm dying to bring on after this break because her voice is absolutely amazing. But when she truly embraced her passion, she embraced a level of originality that put people on their feet for standing ovations. So definitely stick around. You're going to love this one. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Mojo for Musicians podcast. To learn more about becoming a guest on the show to share your mojo with us, visit mannycabo.com and send us an email in the contact section. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, be sure to give us a positive review on your favorite listening platform. And now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back, guys. And as promised, I've got an incredible guest on the show today. And right off the bat, I have to tell you, I knew this girl could sing, right? And when you troll her threads, you could obviously tell she's got mad skills. But when I saw her performance on Italy's Got Talent, which, by the way, got over 100 million plus views and still counting, she just took me to another level of appreciation. And what she did was reveal to the world that true, X factor that is missing from so many voices. And it comes from being bold and being comfortable with who you are and not being afraid to take a different approach or risk for that matter. And you know me, big rewards require big risks. And I'm all about that. So she was born in Russia, just as a little backstory, and she's been singing since she was 3 years old. And check this out. At the tender age of 10, performed her first rendition of opera classic Carmen, which is no small feat, people, for a 10-year-old. Quite remarkable considering I was still playing with Tonka trucks and Matchbox cars when I was 10, but that's another story. So she's won multiple awards, way too many to name here, for her piano skills and, of course, her vocal repertoire in classical music. And, she also loves animals, so that's one thing that I love about her. She's a former gymnast, and if that weren't enough, can communicate fluently in 4 different languages. But lastly, if you're a serious fan of medieval realism soundtracks, like Game of Thrones, Vikings, The Last Kingdom, like I am, then this girl's voice is going to blow. You guys see me smiling here, right? I'm smiling when I say this. It's going to blow you away. And without further ado, check this out. Listen, I don't know about you, but I feel like I should be suited in armor, drenched in blood, and armed with a sword. But all right, enough of my idiocy here. Let's welcome to the show the incredible and angelic voice of Ekaterina Shelenova. Welcome to the show, Ekaterina.
Hello.
It's such a pleasure to have you.
It's such an honor for me. I'm sitting here blushing with everything you just said. Thank you.
Dude, that's just brilliant, man. I really, everything that I said is just true. I feel so, I don't know, imperious, like I should be running a whole civilization here right now. But,
Yeah.
and I tell people that when I listen to your voice, I dare people to close their eyes and see where it takes them. It really does, because it's just fascinating. But let me start off by saying, as evidenced by what I just said, I absolutely love your voice, and your performance on Italy's Got Talent really blew me away, because I can't tell you how many conversations I have with respect to soundtracks, that they use on some of my favorite medieval and early Greek, and Roman drama series, because when I hear you do that style, which, by the way, you crush, as we all know, you know, and what I was alluding to is you could literally close your eyes and your voice takes us away to those majestic times, in foreign lands. I don't know. I wouldn't want to live through those times, though, with people's heads being decapitated, but that's another story.
Yeah,
But it's
not
just
not the best times.
not the best times. But it's just incredible, the power of what the voice can do. And kudos to you for embracing that unique style of yours, which is, essentially the reason why I specifically chose you for this episode, of finding your voice, which, incidentally, if you don't mind, is the perfect segue to my first question, if that's okay with you.
I love segues. That's great.
I love it.
Perfect.
So, right? So when and where did you adopt this style, and what gave you the courage to perform it on national TV? Because that's the sweet sauce that separates the good from the great, right? Because, guys, if you haven't seen her performance, she starts off with this heavy, breathing, almost like she's desperately gasping for air, and everyone's looking at each other like, what the hell's going on here? And then she transitions into this angelic and surreal and haunting voice. So tell me about that.
Well, my journey to finding, I guess, that style has been going on since I was a very little girl, because I started singing folk music when I was little. So I really started in a little folk choir back in Kaliningrad when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And the thing with Russian folk songs is that you use a technique that is in the chest voice, but it's a very, very low vibration.
Mm,
So it's a little bit different from what you would hear, let's say, in a pop song when someone sings with a belt.
right,
It's a lot lower with that ha, just like that,
right,
right?
right,
So
right,
it
right.
goes into a low vibration. So I've been kind of working with that since I was a very little child. And I mean, I love the fact that you compared my voice to all of those medieval shows, because that's really where I got a lot of my inspiration from. Because, like I said, since I was a child, I watched a lot of fantasy shows and movies, and I mean, I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
There you go. That
Uh,
makes perfect sense now. See, you see, I mean,
yes.
you can't listen to your voice with at least, the inkling to escape to those lands. That's the first thing that comes to my mind,
Hmm.
and every person, I got to tell you, I must have showcased your video to at least 10 people. And they're like,
Oh gosh.
initially, they're like, wait, what? Where's this going? They're like, oh, I get it now. It's amazing. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to really
Thank you.
interject with that. Go ahead.
Oh no, thank you so much. Well, yeah. So, since I was a child, I was working through that, and my journey through opera really kind of numbed me down from discovering really who I was.
Mm,
Honestly, I was always put in a box. Because in opera, it's a wonderful, beautiful art form, but
sure.
there's a lot of critics, and there's a lot of specific ways that you need to sing things. And
Right.
so for a very long time, I was very frustrated with having to put myself into these kinds of standards. And so I would be practicing with my teacher opera and then go home and sing all of these kind of improvisations by myself in my room like a rebel, I felt.
Of course.
And
Well, it's more structured too, and I know you agree with me on that. There's a
right.
specific way you can't color outside the lines. I get it.
Exactly, exactly. So when it came to Italia's Got Talent, it was definitely a risk, like you said,
Mm.
because I fought. Well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I was determined to do something of mine.
Right.
So even the crew of Italia's Got Talent wanted me to perform an Italian song, but I really wanted to showcase something that really came from my soul,
Love
that
it.
really came from something deep within. And really, the improvisation that you heard was never sung before. So it was really in the moment that I created that melody, I guess, which was also really interesting.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
But
So, I got to cut you off. So let's rewind. So that whole riff, that whole concept was spontaneous. Like that came out and was rooted from this spontaneous urge for you to just do something different, because that's fascinating and that's pretty bold in itself.
well, yes, I mean, I had an idea in mind. So my whole idea was combining the elements together. So we started with the earth, right?
Mm,
So that was the throat singing, the ancient earth, the ancient throat singing, and then we moved on to fire, and then
right.
we moved on to air, and then everything just soared, right? So my idea was to combine all those elements together and create the earth melodies, which is now what it is called.
I get it.
Um, but back then, I had
So
the
you're essentially
idea
a witch.
that
I get it. Keep going. I get it. I get it.
oh no, I wouldn't survive in the medieval ages probably.
But let me stop you there, because this is huge right now. This is huge because the only way that you arrived at this point was to first off zone in on your craft. And sure, you've done opera music for so long, but something inside you, right? Something inside you
Hmm.
propelled you to say, wait a second, there's something missing. And the reason why I want to shed light on this is because this is the element that I want every artist out there to truly embrace. Like, be yourself. Try to find that unique element that separates you from all the genres out there. And I'm sure you got tons of heat, because when I was on The Voice, I said the same thing. I'm like, guys, I'm not fabricating anything. I'm singing from my heart. I felt
Hmm.
really, really good about the execution of what I was going to do. And toward the tail end, when I hit my really, really heavy falsetto, I'm like, I'm just going for it. What's the worst
Hmm.
that could happen? Right? You fall on your face, and so what? So that's just one chapter in your life. But kudos to you for at least endeavoring to go down a route that many of us fail or worse, fear to do. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, oh, that was very that was very nice. Now I got emotional there just
I'm
thinking
just
about
stating the
that.
facts. And the reason why you get emotional, because it's so real. We singers and vocalists, we need to be more real with our craft. After all, you
Agreed.
got me as a new
Yes.
fan. I'm a believer now. I every time you put something out, the first thing I'm going to do, I got to check out what this girl's doing, right? So that's the element of surprise, that shock value that you want your fans, more importantly, not just listen to, but appreciate. And go
Hmm.
ahead, continue, because I love where you're going with this.
Um, I already lost track of what I was saying. Sometimes I talk for so long and then I think, where am I? What am I doing?
Yeah, no, you basically were saying that you took a big risk, like I
Well,
alluded to earlier
yes,
before. It's
yes.
huge. Go ahead.
Yes, I took a risk definitely, but what I really wanted to do with my performance wasn't just shock value
Mm,
because I think in television and in everything in social media nowadays, it's all about the shock value,
right,
right?
of course.
It's all about creating this kind of element of surprise
Right.
and
It's all about
but
ratings
I
too. You know as well as I do.
exactly,
There's
yeah.
nothing real about reality TV. But go ahead.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. And, I mean, um, the whole entire day of filming on Italia's Got Talent really made me realize how fake everything
Right. And,
is.
producers are listening to this, like cringing, like,
Oh
no, no, no,
no! Oh
no, no, no,
no!
you can't say that. Right. No, but it's true, because everyone thinks it's like a bowl of cherries. No, you're going to go out there, you're going to tell your inspiring story. They're just going to record it organically. Dude, it's nowhere near that
Hmm.
way. Everyone thinks like I'm best buddies with Adam Levine, by the way. Like we have coffee like on a regular basis. So go ahead.
Hmm. Do you?
Yeah. No, absolutely not. Yeah.
Oh, that would be a dream, no?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish. Well,
Spoken
I
like a
love
true
Maroon
female,
5.
right?
Oh gosh. I grew up with Maroon 5, so that
Nice.
would be really a dream.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, it was more about um, exactly what you said, bringing people out of where they are and
Yeah.
bringing them into closing their eyes and imagining them maybe. And what I really love is that I've gotten so many messages from people saying completely different things. Someone saying, I imagined myself soaring in the sky.
Yeah.
Another person saying, I imagined myself on a battle in a battle, about to fight to the death,
Right.
and all of these different sensations and feelings is exactly what I really
Right.
wanted to kind of do
Right. Well, here's the
because
thing. I want to point this out too, because everyone had their different interpretations, right? But
exactly.
the one thing that was synonymous to everyone, they were all engaged. Regardless of how
Hmm.
different they were all engaged with what? Your voice. Go ahead.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. Because, and what I always try to teach my students as well, because I also teach vocal, is
Right.
that singing and our voice is energy,
Mm,
right? And it's that vibration, it's that energy that you're giving out to everybody. And if you hold that energy to yourself, if you don't give all of yourself in that moment, that's when people don't connect. And so for me, the biggest compliment, the most incredible thing, and what moved me the most is the people saying, I felt it, I understood
yes.
what you were doing.
Absolutely.
I was there with you, And I think as an artist, as a performer, I think that's what we should be striving for, not fame and glory and whatever, all of those superficial things, right? It's touching hearts. Yeah, it's touching people,
Right. Perfect. I'm so
moving
I'm
people.
so happy that you said that, because it really is refreshing. And that's one of the elements that I really want vocalists out there, or any artists for that matter, to truly
Hmm.
embrace. You can't do anything in life just for the money. I get it, but it's a very shallow way of approaching success. At the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that if you do something that you're truly and heartfelt, right? And
Hmm.
completely and utterly engaged in, then the money eventually follows, because it doesn't become work. You do it out of the passion. And
Exactly.
when you serve your avatar or your audience, right? Not only do you get these
Hmm.
certain fans, but you develop this tribe, this group of people that are like so emphatically connected to you and what you're doing that you can
Hmm.
actually create a career from that. Because it's been proven in the business world, you don't need a zillion and one followers. 1,000 members of a strong tribe can take you to that next level of success consistently throughout the years,
Yes, yes, absolutely,
right?
absolutely, because it's about connecting, right? So the more you give of yourself, the more people reach out to you. So it has to be coming from both ends,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And I want to get into question number two and respecting your time because I know you as well. Most people that I interview on the show are on the opposite side of the world. So I get it. And thank you for being here. And I know you got another photo shoot to attend to. So,
Oh my gosh,
right.
yeah. Well, the the photo shoot, I'll tell you about it. It snowed about, I don't know how many, maybe 20 centimeters. No, I'm lying, maybe I'm exaggerating. But we had a huge snowstorm last night and it's still going.
Wow.
So I see the snow and it's finally snowing and I say, "Dad, we have to go out and take some photos in the snow." And he gets excited because he's a photographer
Right.
and he likes to take pictures. I mean, um, all of my photos are by my father. So my
Oh,
father is kind of,
wow. I did not
he
know
does
that.
everything. Yeah,
I did
yeah.
not know that. That's awesome. That's nice trivia. Who takes Ekaterina's photograph? Go.
Oh.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I'm an editorial photographer and my forte is
Yes, yeah.
musician. So I appreciate his fervor for capturing and arresting images, especially when it comes to your daughter. What better subject
Hmm.
to have than your own daughter?
Exactly.
That's
No, he loves
fantastic.
it. Yeah.
So listen,
I'm grateful. Yeah.
let me get into question number two. What are, or would you say, are your top three pieces of advice for vocalists, that are having that difficult time trying to find their unique voice? Because as I stressed prior to getting you on the show, is we all have a voice. We don't have to
Hmm.
try to find a voice. What we need to do is cultivate the tools and the muscles that we have in that voice, right? And then
Hmm.
experiment with different genres to see what resonates best with you. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
please indulge.
Oh my gosh. No, I completely agree. Um, I don't, let's think of three. Let's do a countdown. One. Number one. Definitely, like I said before, try not to put yourself in that box, right? The box doesn't exist. I think that everybody has something so unique in themselves and
Mm,
it's so hard to find, but it's when we listen to others saying, "No, this is wrong. No, do it this way. No,
right.
this is not nice." I think that's when we kind of lose ourselves because we're always not listening to what we want and what we feel, but trying to please people who might not, understand who we are as a person and what we really
Absolutely.
want,
Absolutely.
right? So always listen to yourself. Always listen to what you feel is correct for you. Don't let anyone put you in that box, like what happened to me for a lot of the years that I've been studying. So, number two. Hmm.
And again, I put
Number
pressure
two.
on you to give me three, but listen, two is fine because I got to tell you, it's one of those questions. I know it's a loaded question, but one of the reasons why I want to point this out is because of what
Hmm.
you did with your voice. We all know you have an amazing voice, but then you took it in a totally different direction, and you created that shock value, and not for
Hmm.
nothing, but in this entertainment business, having shock value, that's a beautiful asset to have in your corner. And here's another thing I want to point out. There's no such thing as the best voice, right? It doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So you're allowed to sing and speak however you wish. So that should take
Hmm.
off a lot of pressure from everyone out there, even remotely attempting to endeavor a journey into this career, right?
Hmm. Oh, I love that. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, I think another thing is don't strive for that perfection,
Mm,
right? Because it doesn't exist.
right.
What exists is that authenticity of yourself and finding out who you are and trying to give all of yourself while you're singing. So my bit of advice is, when you are singing, become selfless. You are not remove your ego, right? You are In my opinion, you are a mediator of what you're trying to say, right?
Right.
So you are giving that energy away, and you have to give all of it away, your
Right.
ego, your everything. So that's the only way that you really connect with people, is when you let all of that go. If you sit on stage and say, look at me, look how great I sing, look how high the notes that I sing are,
Right.
it removes that connection, it removes that soul from your performance. And I think the most important thing is instead thinking of yourself as just this person gifting all of that you have inside of you to everyone else.
Sure.
Hope
Well,
that made sense.
no, it
What about
completely
you?
made sense, and another thing that I love to really admonish is we are all perfect in our imperfections. We are our biggest limitations. I know I do it. I'm a culprit. I get into vocal booth like just recently. I'm recording a new album, which, by the way, shameless plug, it'll be out in sometime in February.
Uh-uh.
But anyway, right? I had to do it. So I'm in the vocal booth sometimes. I can't stand being in the vocal booth because I feel like it's a robotic process. All right, no, we're going to take this take
Hmm.
again. No, we're going to take it again. And when I finally submit to a particular line, what I do is
Hmm.
I get myself at the crossroads. I'm like, well, listen, how do I feel about this? I put myself in a position where I'm acting it out in my brain, and then I just sing from that perspective. And guess what? 9 out of 10 times, it's going to be perfect. I'm not saying it's going to
Hmm.
be perfect in the sense of execution. It's going to be perfect to my ears because it's believable. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
I'm more concerned with how believable is my performance than
Exactly.
the perfect, techniques that I'm using. Did I breathe properly? Because people will
Hmm.
listen to your music and be like, oh my God. And I knew you've heard this before. Dude, everything that Manny just said in that song, I felt, it just pierced my heart. Like I could feel his pain or I can feel his angst or happiness, right?
Yeah,
So that's one of the things that I really
exactly.
wanted to stress from what you just provided for me. And I'll let you do too. I'm going to let you off the hook because, you touched upon two great components that I think are integral part of finding your true voice. So if you don't mind, I'm going to get into
Hmm.
question number 3, unless you want to add.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready
All
for
right.
question
All
number
right, cool.
three.
So you have a style as an artist, and I see it already. And your connection with all the fans and supporters, which, in my opinion, is the key component to the success of any artist, right? You,
Mm,
you agree with
right,
me on that,
right.
right? So,
Absolutely.
so my question to you is this: is there one thing that you want your fans to remember you by, right?
Hmm.
What do you think you've executed that well in your music thus far that you've done to the point where, yeah, I nailed that, right?
Hmm.
That has helped you gain the support of your fans? And what do you think you could do better? And I ask this because this is something we should all be asking ourselves throughout our career, which is
Hmm.
not just finding your voice, but how well we connect with our voice.
Hmm.
Because once you've mastered that, that's a recipe for success. I hope that makes sense to you.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. Um, well, I think we're always growing, right? And
sure.
so I think as soon as we come to the point that we say, "Oh yeah, everything's perfect. I'm right at the top," is where we fail, because I feel like we should go our whole lives, you know, climbing and climbing and getting better, and thinking of different ways to do things, and finding ourselves every single time we perform in a different way, right?
Right, of course.
Um, but I guess what I've discovered so far, and what I want to continue doing, is really bringing people into a different world, because I've always used that maybe as an escape mechanism.
Mm,
Um, I've always, I mean, I've had a very easy childhood. I've had a very happy childhood. But I had to perform a lot, so I never really had time for friends.
right,
I was always studying. I was always on the road with my parents, either to an audition or a concert or something. And so my escape was fantasy books and movies and music. And what I really want to do is help other people who maybe are I don't know, need that escape, to give it to them, to have time where they can close their eyes and go to a different world and just feel all that
Mm,
stress kind of fall off their shoulders. And I think that that's the greatest gift and the most incredible thing that I felt throughout these last couple of months of people writing to me saying, I listen to this and I feel better. And I think healing with music is the most incredible, most amazing thing that you can really do,
right.
is help heal people with music.
No,
So
I love
that's
that.
my kind of goal for the next couple of years, is to really get people into a different mindset, into a different world, maybe.
Right.
So maybe I'm thinking ahead of myself a little bit,
No, listen,
but
I love it. I for one can honestly state, that you have been the underscoring soundtrack of many of my most pensive moments here. I'm sitting in the studio going, what the hell am I
oh
going to talk
goodness.
about now? So yeah, I've actually gone in so far as to listen to some of your YouTube videos because I have
Mm.
to tell you, it's just this style of music that's so peaceful. And yet there's so much tension. There's a culmination of emotion that I hear in your soundtrack, And like I said,
Hmm.
it makes every situation that I'm attending to a soundtrack, and it helps me because I'm a pretty emotional dude. I speak from the heart. I don't speak
Hmm.
from the mind so much. If it's analytical, I'm still going to incorporate that passionate side. And for me, that
Hmm.
always comes from the heart. And your music underscores many moments that I've made some critical decision with respect to topics that I'm going to discuss, whether it's a presentation, whether it's a podcast, whether it's my own music. So I completely understand the verdict and the
Hmm.
position of your fans. And that's a huge asset to have as a singer when you have that connectivity with your fans. Because, like I
Hmm.
said, I'm a fan now. So now the pressure's on. You got to keep producing this stuff because I need more material to come out.
Well, I'll do a shameless plug myself.
Yeah,
There's an
please.
EP that might be coming out soon.
Nice.
So there you go. My shameless plug right here.
Well, no, you listen. I always give room at the end for you guys to really indulge in something that you'd like to discuss. But I'm glad you did that. And this is listen. We've come to the winter seasons, and maybe you want to sing something, but the winter seasons of this interview, and it's question number 4, and this is my signature question of the show. And again, the reason why I ask this, and I repeat myself in every show, but I get such incredibly versatile answers to this, which is what's your mojo? You know, why do you continue to pursue this particular style? And even though you've summed up until this point why you do that, but there's got to be a specific reason, and let's face it, we all have our reasons for whatever it is that we do, whether it's fame, whether
Hmm.
it's money, whether it's abundance. I don't care what it is. What is it about this that gives you that mojo to say, you know what? I love this. I'm going to keep doing this.
Well, I think it's the inner feeling and energy that I get while performing this
Mm,
kind of thing. Um, I've been performing since I was 3, so I have a fair share of experience on stage with many different genres. I did everything from folk to pop to musical theater to opera, and then landing where I am now. And I've never felt such a raw energy than what I feel now. So when I start to do these improvisations, I literally start to vibrate. My whole body feels like it's on fire, and maybe that sounds very
no,
exaggerative,
that's
but
awesome.
I'm also a very emotive person, and I've
Right.
always been very sensitive to music and to art and everything. And so um, to have that feeling, it is really the most incredible feeling that I've maybe ever felt, because it's that raw, completely raw energy where you feel
Yeah.
not only connected to your own body and to your own voice, but you feel really connected to everything around you. As maybe cheesy as that sounds,
No, not at
um,
all. And you know what? I,
it's
I want to
it,
add to that, not to cut you off because I love where you're going
oh
with this,
no.
but the point I'm trying to make is, and it's something that I've been writing for a while now, and I'm going to unleash it to the world. What you're talking about is this place called the quiet place for the artist, right? Most people
Mhm.
consider it as when you're in the zone, that many don't
Exactly.
understand where that place is. And the only way to get there is through trial, through error, through failings,
Hmm.
through frustration, through successes. There's a culmination of emotions that need to come to its apex for you to understand what it is to finally be in the zone. So, yes, I get it. Continue.
Hmm. Right. Exactly. And the zone is it's a fantastic place to be. I don't know if you saw that movie Soul, the
Yes.
Disney. Oh my gosh. When I
Yes.
saw that, I thought, finally, someone else understands. I thought I was the only one.
Right, right. Yeah, and I've got a surprise for everyone out there in the world. With that being said, remember when you listen to this episode with Ekaterina, rewind this part and you'll know where I'm getting at. But yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it. It's this specific place. I can't describe it, but I know exactly where you're coming from. And it's one thing that I
Mhm.
wish that every artist in this world, at some point and another, or another, I should say, arrives to. Because once you're
Yeah.
there, it's like performing in a sold out arena. You listen, I performed in front of the bartender. I've performed in front of 60,000 sold out peoples in stadiums. There's nothing like arriving at that feeling. And it doesn't matter what the crowd capacity is, but you feel it
Yeah.
and you'll know when you're there. And if you're drawing the energy, like you said, and your inspiration from this place, oh my God, the results are just timeless and just so thought provoking. And you share that with the world, and it's the most gratifying feeling that you could ever talk about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, exactly.
That's fantastic. Listen, you've been a fuel to my fire. I'm going to go out and write like 10 more episodes because this has been
Oh.
such this has been such an enriching episode, and I want to thank you for it. And again, this is your opportunity. Please, if there's anything you want to talk about, if there's anything you'd like to promote, I don't care if it's your social media. Like, how do people find you if they want to really get in touch with the one and only Ekaterina Shelenova?
Well, I'm on pretty much every type of social media. You
Nice.
know,
I think we have
I
to be.
have,
That's a must, right? That's a prerequisite.
oh, yes, of course. And I actually got into TikTok in the last couple of months. Um, I know my parents probably roll their eyes whenever I say that because, but I've actually grown kind of fond of it. And
Mm,
that's where I pretty much post a lot of my improvisations, but as well as Instagram and YouTube. All of my social media accounts are with the exact same name. So it's very easy to find, just even typing in my last name, which I mean, it'll be here,
yeah,
right? So
no, you
just
come up
typing
pretty
in my,
quickly. I might add.
oh,
I
yeah.
typed in your, you come up in seconds, which is exactly what you want, by the way.
Yeah, and so actually, I did an album when I was 16, and they gave me a name which was Katya because they said it was easier to remember.
Sure.
And I was a bit upset about it because I love my name. I really take pride in my name and my last name, and so I said, you know what, I'm gonna stick with my roots and I'm gonna stick with the
Love
name that my
it.
parents gave me,
Love it.
and
Yeah.
I want people to know me as what my parents decided to name me because I think I respect that and I want to honor that. So I do have an EP coming out in the next couple of months. So, first, I'm going to be releasing a few singles and then an EP in around March, depending on a lot of things. But hopefully, at around March, there will be an EP out on Spotify, on iTunes, and all the other platforms. So, I'm so excited to share that because it's going to be solely improvisations and kind of meditation music,
Ooh,
and
all right.
I really hope to bring peace into people's lives with that. We'll
Listen,
see.
I'm all about meditative soundtracks. I've been meditating for 15 years. It's been an indispensable part of my livelihood and has helped me adapt and come up with some amazing ideas. So thank you for that. I'm looking forward to that from my personal standpoint. Absolutely.
Oh, great.
Nice. Well, listen, Ekaterina, thank you so much. It's definitely been a pleasure and an honor having you on the show. Thank you for sharing your journeys and your experiences and your energy with us, right? Because it's all about energy, like you said. So, on behalf of myself and all the Mojo Maniacs out there, thank you for joining us here on Mojo for Musician. It's been a blast.
Thank you. It's been an incredible honor for me as well.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Thank you
Keep
so
doing great
much.
things, kiddo. And I'll talk to you soon. We got to do this again. All right. Promise?
Absolute promise. Pinky promise.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
This has been a Mojo for Musicians podcast. If you're a musician, producer, engineer, or any other industry professional wanting to share your mojo and stories of success with our listeners, or just want to share some feedback on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. So just send us an email at info@mannycabo.com. Thanks for listening.